Hi, welcome to Live on KEXP at Home. I'm your host, DJ Morgan from listener-powered independent 90.3 FM KEXP in Seattle. We stream online all over the world at kexp.org as well and on our mobile apps. And we're so happy to continue connecting you with live music as we remain socially distant and working from home. And all of this is made possible with your support. So thank you so much for supporting KEXP. And I am so happy to be joined today by Adrianne Lenker. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Where are you coming from right now? Where are you at?
I'm in Tucson, Arizona. You can kind of see the desert out there.
The desert. That looks like nice weather right now. That's nice to see after a cold, cloudy day here in Washington.
Wow. Yeah, very different climates.
Absolutely. It's nice to see you again. I saw you just over a year ago, the last time Big Thief was live in our studios at KEXP last October. And it's been an intense year for everyone, I'm sure you included. And you just released a couple months ago in October, 2 new wonderful, beautiful records, songs and instrumentals. Huge congratulations on those brand new records. So I'm curious, I saw you a year ago. Obviously, you were on tour with Big Thief during that time. And just a couple months later, the pandemic hit. Where were you at the time when all of the shelter-in-place orders took place, and how did that sort of happen for you all?
I was in Europe, I think in Copenhagen, when we had to abandon our tour and figure out where to fly. And it was mid-March, I think. And we had a show. It was actually it was building up as we were driving through Italy, actually, and we had to cancel some shows there. And then we were in Copenhagen and we had 2 shows because they were separating the shows so that there were smaller capacities. Then we played the first one of the day. And then it was like 10 minutes before our second set, they announced that there were no more gatherings and that everything had to be canceled and shut down immediately. So,
wow.
So we kind of got ripped out of that one.
That is so intense. Where did you go after you had to leave Europe?
I pretty quickly decided that I was going to go be with my sister in Western Mass. So I flew to New York and then drove out there and went to she at the time lived with her partner in the foothills of the Berkshire Mountains and staying on this woman's land, like 100 acres of woods that were right up against the national forest. And so it was a really beautiful place, but also I'm really close with my sister. So yeah.
That was a nice choice to be near family during a time where you can't really move around too much. That sounds like a really lovely location too. Is that where you ended up recording these 2 new records?
It is, yeah. Originally I was staying with my sister and her partner in this really tiny little cabin, and it's sleeping in like this little loft bed off to, like, it's hard to describe, but quite small. And then it became clear that I was going to be there for a lot longer. And so, but there was another little cabin on the land. And so I just ended up renting that because it was empty. It just happened to be empty. And, and that's what became the studio.
Wow.
But none of it was planned or foreseen.
Yeah. When did you decide that you were going to record? Did you call up some friends, or how did that work?
Basically I just was playing so much. I was playing guitar as a practice for the first time in so long, where it was just me in a room by myself, playing for hours and hours and hours. And it sounded so good in there that I felt I wanted to archive it somehow, just because the resonance, and it was just this very simple 1-room cabin with a little like wood burning stove that I was cooking on, and it was all just wood, I guess. So it just felt like just this warm, rich sound. And so I called my friend Phil, who was in Brooklyn, and asked if he happened to want to get out of the city. And and we just gathered all these tape machines that friends lent to us and made our own little makeshift studio and decided to do it all analog, which was I'm really happy we did it that way.
Have you ever done that before? Have you ever recorded analog?
Well, I've recorded to tape, like with Big Thief, but I had never done it all AAA like that, like where you you record onto the tape, and then you mix it down to tape, and then you master it down to another tape reel, and then you press that right onto the vinyl, like it's never goes through a computer.
Wow.
So I had never done that before, which it's pretty cool. Like if you get the vinyl, like, or if you listen to the vinyl, you can. I mean, I think it's like so clearly, it's subtle, but like you can subliminally, it feels like it just does. It's like listening to old records. Just like the sound is. I don't know how to describe it, but I think I can feel the difference.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the difference listening to these records. Like it sounds as if I am in the room with you when I'm listening to it on headphones. Like I feel like I'm just 2 feet away from you. The sound is just so warm. That's it was very great instincts that you had for making an archival document of that sound, because you were so right. It sounds amazing. And the songs are so great too. And I'd love to get into this first song. You recorded a beautiful performance video outdoors. It's lovely. And we can talk about that when we come back. But I love for everyone to see this first song. This is Anything from the new record Songs from Adrianne Lenker, live on KEXP at Home.
Staring down the barrel of the hot sun, shining with the sheen of a shotgun. Carol has a little if we need some. Joe has a ride if we wanna come. Hanging near your jeans with a clothespin. Skin still wet, still on my skin. Mango in your mouth, juice dripping. Shoulder of your shirt sleeve slipping. Christmas Eve with your mother insists. Don't wanna fight, but your mother insists. Dog's white teeth slice right through my fist. Drive to the ER and they put me on risk. Grocery store list, now you get pissed. Unchecked calls and messages. I don't wanna be the owner of your fantasy. I just wanna be a part of your family. And I don't wanna talk about anything. I don't wanna talk about anything. I wanna kiss your eyes again. Wanna witness your eyes looking. I don't wanna talk about anyone. I don't wanna talk about anyone. I wanna sleep in your car while you're driving. Lay in your lap when I'm crying. Circle of pine and red oak. Circle of moss and fire smoke. Fan on the ceiling like a wheel spoke. Push the clutch and I pull the choke. Wanna listen to the sound of you blinking. Wanna listen to your hands soothe. Listen to your heart beating. Listen to the way you move. And I don't wanna talk about anything. I don't wanna talk about anything. I wanna kiss your eyes again. Wanna witness your eyes looking. I don't wanna talk about anyone. I don't wanna talk about anyone. I wanna sleep in your car while you're driving. Lay in your lap when I'm crying. Weren't we the stars in heaven? Weren't we the salt in the sea? Dragon in the new warm mountain. Didn't you believe in me? You held me the whole way through, but I couldn't say the words like you. I was scared indigo, but I wanted to. I was scared indigo, but I wanted to. And I don't wanna talk about anything. I don't wanna talk about
It's Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at home. That was the song Anything from the new record Songs. A second record, Instrumentals, was just released as well at the same time in October of this year. Where did you film this live performance video? It's so beautiful.
In Joshua Tree.
Have you been recording your live performance videos in different spaces? I know you've sort of been all over the country in the last few months. Have you been recording in different places?
Well, actually, I haven't done that many like performance videos. I just did this batch of them when I was in Joshua Tree. I went out there specifically to do some videos because getting the whole crew, like, getting someone to film and getting someone to run sound is actually kind of like an involved thing, like to get something that sounds natural and good. And my friend Adam came out and shot it, and my friend Scott came out and did sound. But in regards to this record, because it was a bit of an operation, we ended up doing a lot of different recordings in that location.
It looks and sounds so good. And that song, Anything, is so beautiful as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's that song about?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's I guess on a simple level, missing someone and longing for them and having all these like memories and glimpses in your mind of all these beautiful things, like a montage kind of just of, beauty that and love that's shared, and even, the hard things, the like moments that are chaotic and feel difficult, when it all just kind of like turns into one mass and is like a part of the fabric of your being after having had, but it's just about feeling exhausted from words and trying to work things out and wanting to just be in the presence of that person. And a lot of it was, it came after the pandemic hit and everything. It's just, you really appreciate the things that you take for granted, like falling asleep in the car next to someone driving, feeling safe enough with someone to fall asleep while they're driving, or like, it's not that, it's pretty simple now that I'm talking about it.
Yeah. I read that a lot of these songs sort of tumbled out of you all at once while you were doing the recording. How do you get yourself into the headspace of writing songs from scratch when you're just sitting down at a guitar and a microphone?
I guess I don't have that. Well, usually I don't sit in front of a microphone until I'm ready to record something, or because otherwise I'll just be intimidated, or, I'll be thinking about it as a recording instead of just as a song. But yeah, it's just, I get this feeling welling up inside that I just need to play, and then the rest kind of happens. I just like make time and space for it. And it's really there's not really a formula, and it happens differently every time, and I never expect it to actually happen, but I just start getting this overwhelming feeling like I need to connect to something that I don't even know how to articulate, and that I need to say something or sing something that I haven't yet figured out how to articulate. And then it's just like kind of sitting with a ball of clay and just shaping it until it feels good in your hands. And it's intuitive, and it just kind of happens. It just kind of tumbles out the way that you might be working with a piece of clay, and you start getting the little micro, or like what are the little tiny muscle called? The control.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Motor skills.
Yeah.
Fine motor skills. Yeah.
Yeah, where you just have such a feel for it because you've just been doing it and sitting with that material, and it's just your own process, and it's kind of impossible to describe what's happening on that micro level. Mm-hmm. But you just have I just have a relationship with the guitar and the vibration of it in my body, and it just becomes kind of like a trance, and then stuff just starts coming out.
I feel like I can hear that trance, especially on instrumentals. It feels like you're really in a cycle with it before you're getting maybe to one of the songs on songs. How do you workshop those lyrics? Are you working those out at the same time as you're writing the song, or have you been writing those down and you're sort of piecing those together later?
I always write them as I'm working on everything at once, kind of. I mean, it usually starts with the guitar, but then the singing, the melody, and the words all kind of come at once. But mostly it starts with sounds, like the sounds I want to make. Like the sounds kind of shape themselves like almost like broad strokes, starting with like a loose outline of the way certain like vowels or consonants are placed, and then it gets filled in with a finer detail. But it's like trying to think of an example.
It's like an oil painting almost. Where you have like your really thin base layer of paint, and you can kind of smudge it with paint thinner. And then when you're feeling more and more confident with that image, you can keep layering on thicker layers of paint. Just reminds me of that.
Yeah, and whittle it into more and more detail once you start getting a clear picture of what it is. Yeah.
That's cool. I like your insight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's get into another song. This is Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at Home. This is the song Zombie Girl from the new record Songs.
What a dream that was. I almost couldn't wake because I was frozen in bed with a zombie girl, vacant as a closed down fair. Sleep paralysis. I swore I could have felt you there, and I almost could have kissed your hair, but the emptiness withdrew me from any kind of wishful prayer. Oh, emptiness, tell me about your nature. Maybe I've been getting you wrong. I cover you with questions, cover you with explanations, cover you with music. Then the next night, dreaming I could feel your skin, but the dream escaped so easily, and I woke up to the road again. How your words ring through, something kind of sweet and blue, and I knew that you'd been understanding everything that I'd said to about emptiness. Tell me about your nature. Maybe I've been getting you wrong. I cover you with questions, cover you with explanations, cover you with music. What's on your mind? What's on your mind? What's on your mind? What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
It's Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at Home. That was Zombie Girl from the new record Songs that just came out in October. Can you talk a little bit about Zombie Girl? What's that song about?
I wrote it after I had a really intense dream sequence when I was in Switzerland helping my friend move all her stuff from the Alps in Switzerland to Amsterdam. And I rented this little stick shift car, and I had just learned how to drive a stick, and I barely got it out of the garage. I was like driving around the parking garage for 2 hours before I got the rental car out. And then I drove up there, and I slept there and met her friend who she was staying with. And then I slept in this library room with this balcony right above this little like waterfall. And it was just an intense place, like energetically, because of the nature being so sort of extreme and being in the mountains. But then I had this dream, and it was this really, probably one of the worst nightmares I've ever had. I had sleep paralysis, and I had a dream about these like two girls, one with dark hair and one with light hair, and they were about 14, and they were in this body of icy cold water. It was like frozen lake water. And then they kept like shooting up into the air and hovering with their heads kind of hanging raggedly. And then but smiling and like laughing and not like kind of not aware that they were hovering, and then shooting back down into the water suddenly, and then up and then down. And then I like noticed that they had these ghost hands just like doing this over their, just floating hands cut off at the wrist. Both of them just had they were hands just doing this like around their throats. And then like I looked over, and they were like 14-year-old. So like I was kind of friends with, I don't know, I was like close, protective, I don't know. But I like looked over, and the one with darker hair, she just like suddenly died, and like blood came out of her eyes, and she just like, but then as soon as it hit me that something was wrong with her, she just shot back to life. And she was just like nothing had happened. And then suddenly I was in the house that I was actually sleeping in, but all the windows and doors were open, and it was like icy cold. And I went to my friend's room to see if she was in there, and she was sitting there on the floor, and she just like looked up at me like so vacant. And then I just like ran back into my room and got in bed and just like got under the covers. And then I just like looked next to me, and there was this woman just like hunched next to me, like crouching. And she just looked over at me, and just like, not even evil, just vacant. But like I knew she was coming for me, and she could go through walls or through bodies, or there was no sense. I couldn't like run from her. And so like, but then I looked down, and I had the hands just like doing this over my neck. And then suddenly I was aware that I was like dreaming, but I like couldn't wake up. I couldn't move my body. My limbs were like stuck, and I was like trying to wake up, and I couldn't wake up. And it was worse than I'm even describing. It was like horrifying. And then I just like looked at the woman, and I was like, I'm not afraid of you. And I just like lunged into her, because I felt like the only thing I could do was like jump into her rather than run away. So like I woke up, and I couldn't fall back asleep. I like rearranged the bed, like put my head at the other end of the bed, lit some candles, lit some, just like
change the energy.
Change the energy. And then the next day I talked to the person who lived there, and she's like, yeah, there's this, what's it called? A church where there's like
a cemetery?
Not a monastery, no. But for like, good Lord, I'm blanking on it. The word.
Describe it. Maybe I can help you.
Where nuns live.
Oh yeah, nunnery?
Yeah, I guess so. But there was another word that she had used, like a church or like
a convent?
Yes.
Yeah.
A convent, thank you.
Yeah.
It had been up the hill, and I don't know, not that had anything to do with it, but that there had been a lot of oppression, like that with women, and burning witches and stuff like that happening around there, that type of business. Just like, anyway, just that was kind of a side note. I thought it was interesting. But then the next day I went to bed, and I was afraid to fall asleep. And then I had another dream, and it was like this incredibly beautiful dream. I was like weightless, and I was in this bed with just like it was just silvery light, blue, white, like blanket clouds, and I was like floating, and I was with this person, and we were like making love, and like it was just like so beautiful. I was like, I don't want to wake up. It was the polar opposite. It was like angelic. And then I reached out to the person I was just like, it was someone who I hadn't really talked with that much. But they just appeared, and it started an entire like love story, which that song ended up kind of foreshadowing. Yeah, so that's that's the long-winded version.
Wow, that's amazing. It's interesting to hear that story, because I was not expecting that at all. But I was going to ask you, because the way that you write lyrics and approach ideas, I feel like just from me reading your lyrics and reading about you, I feel like you think about dualism in life a lot, which I think is really interesting. And the lyrics in that song in particular that I wanted to ask you about is, "Oh, emptiness, tell me about your nature. Maybe I've been getting you wrong." I wanted to ask you if you had any revelations about embracing that feeling of loneliness more, or emptiness as a positive rather than something to fear.
Yeah. Well, in a way, I feel like that's what the dream kind of was. I felt like the vacancy was the thing I was afraid of. Like, it wasn't like the zombie girl was evil. It was like she was empty. And I was so afraid of that, like just the shell or the hollowness. But there's like always two sides. I mean, not just two sides. Maybe it's one and the same, and we're just looking at it two-sidedly because we have to divide it. But it's like, yeah, I think that's the longing that I'm feeling in that question is I want to understand it more. Like, I don't really know if it's like I do everything I can to cover it up, even with things that aren't necessarily like vices or escapes, but even just in questions, even just in music. And so, yeah, it's just kind of this longing to get closer to that void that feels so terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of obsessed with that, because even in my last record, like, it's called Abyss Kiss.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's it, is like underlying everything. I feel like that there's this deep mystery, and it feels very like dark, but in like it's like getting to know, the darkness, not as a negative, but as like even just feeling uncomfortable at night, venturing out. Like, I don't think I would walk down this trail out here in the desert too far, but it's like because there's all of these feelings and fears, but yeah, it's just something about being a human and feeling like you don't really know what's on either side of birth or death, and like you don't really fully know what the truth is of the paradigm that we're living in, and that you get a sense that no one really does, and that like, yeah, and then just when everything falls away, every distraction, and it's really it's really challenging to just sit with yourself and sit. And I guess I'm just curious more so about what the nature of that space is.
Mm-hmm. I was watching a documentary about outer space yesterday, and it just reminds me of this. They were talking about the nothingness of space, the void, the blackness. It isn't nothing in the way that we think. It is still something, and it is just as important as the matter. The antimatter is just as important as the matter. They depend on each other in order to exist.
Right. It's just as much of a something as the matter.
I wish we could easily change our perspective to feel more excited about that rather than fearful of it. But
Well,
I
and
think that's
curiosity is, in that sense, what is such a cool instrument or a tool or something. Like, it's, you can use curiosity to bring you into all these different places, and you're looking at it more so with wonderment. And I just like that approach in general to things. I think you can be endlessly fascinated throughout your whole life, and there's just so much to explore.
I totally agree. I love that outlook on life. I'm DJ Morgan from KEXP. I'm talking to Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at home. Let's get into another song. This next song is called Half Return. Can you tell us a little bit about that one before we get into it?
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It kind of means a bunch of different things in one little short breath. And I am still actually discovering what it means, but I think, I mean, the feeling of it is driving down that toll road between New York and Minnesota and going home, and the feeling of like inhabiting a certain role when you suddenly back, when you're back with like family or people who have placed certain projection on you. Like, everyone places projection on everyone, and then when you're a kid, you kind of understand yourself as those projections. You kind of understand yourself as defined by everyone around you, what they say you're good at, what they say you are, like, whatever it is. And then growing up, it's so challenging to just sort of like shake all of that away and start to uncover what your own essence is. And then when you go, as soon as I'm back with my parents or it's like I'm back in these kind of like, I feel like a kid again, like, but also I can see in my father that he feels like a kid, like in his certain, but then this is this weird crossover between that and then talking about like our government and how through like projection and placed on everything and everyone, like the very system that's supposed to be in place to take care of the country and be a strong, solid representation of the people who live on this land, is like this big shiny white house, and the lawn is dead, as the concept of like, I mean, maybe the lawn's immaculate there, but the greater lawn of like the country, like it's like, it's like, and then there's all these people playing dress up like they're in these very highly important roles, but everything is convoluted. And are people actually being taken care of? Like, is this earth actually being taken care of and represented? And feeling that frustration of just like, that it's just a bit of a simulation. Like, it's, so there's this crossover between standing in the yard dressed like a kid, the house is white and the lawn is dead, and like the half return. And I think it goes into abstraction, and I'm still understanding its meanings, but it's like there's a lot of crossover between like father imagery, like founding fathers, and like my father, and like half return and half return, like these 180 turns, never sort of, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out.
I like what you figured out so far. That's cool. This is Half Return from Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at home.
Shadow, shadow, what a show. Every other step there's a cross-eyed crow. Half return, half return. Minneapolis, soft white snow. 35 Bridge, hometown. Half return, half return. Standing in the yard, dressed like a kid. The house is white and the lawn is dead. The lawn is dead. The lawn is dead. Illinois toll road, Indiana plain. Roll the windows down, shoot out the change. Half return, half return. Honey in your mouth when you gave me my name.
That was Half Return from Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at home from the new album Songs, another new album called Instrumentals, released at the same time as well. I wanted to ask you about those two separate albums. One obviously is instrumental and one is songs with lyrics. What was your thinking behind releasing those two at the same time? And do you have an intended way for those to be listened to, like one before the other, or?
I have no intended order or anything. I mean, I kind of just want them to be used as best suits whoever needs them, and like as tools, or as like something you like. Yeah, as the instrumentals one felt more utilitarian to me. Like I was kind of hoping that could just be like in the medicine cabinet, like if someone needs that. If sometimes I think that sound can really change the way we experience whatever room we're in, whatever environment we're in. So if we're somewhere that feels really like boxy or like dull or noisy and chaotic or whatever it is, like it can create this softness like swirling around the room where it just provides this little bed and then makes other things more come alive more, like imagination. And so perhaps I thought people could just use it if they needed a little company, like as if someone's just sitting in the corner like fiddling on the guitar. And I really was fiddling for that. It was like all these improvisations stuck together, nothing labored over really, but just playing the guitar, because it's so soothing to me that I thought maybe it could also be soothing for other people. So that's really just for people to use however, whenever, falling asleep, like while they're cooking, drawing, reading, writing their own words, like, I just kind of wanted it to be like that. And then the other one, just more so my songs. And I really couldn't come up with an album name, so I just kind of called them, like, it's kind of technical,
Yeah.
But
I like it though, because it's very clear. It's clear what you're getting from those two separate albums.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about the instrumentals album is that obviously, since you're not singing, there's a lot more sound space for nature and your ambient noise. And it really, to me, felt like almost like nature was playing along with you. Like the birds were playing along with you, and the rain was playing, and the wind chimes too. So the wind, in that respect. Were you paying attention at all to those sounds as you were playing, or was that something you heard back for the first time really on the recording?
I was really paying attention to them. Yeah, because I could hear them. And so we were playing together.
Yeah. I love it. It really sounds like that. Do you feel like were you changing how you were playing to correspond with what you were hearing? Or is it just a little more meditative?
No, I went in and out of it. I think sometimes I got a little more lost in my own thing, and then I would come out of it. I'd hear something and respond and react to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
half of it is just literally wind chimes being played by the wind.
It's so relaxing. I love it.
Cool.
There was a really great article that came out in the New Yorker where a writer spent a significant amount of time with you. I'm curious about the timeline of everything. When did you record these two albums? And then when did this writer join you? And then when did you part from them?
Yeah. Well, I guess I recorded the records. What year is it? 2020?
Yeah.
It's 2020?
It's a good question. Yes.
So I guess March 2020, Big Thief got pulled out of that tour.
Yeah.
COVID started spreading. Went into lockdown. And then I think it was April and May. like end of April and all of May, I recorded in the Berkshires. And then shortly after that, actually, my sister and her partner had to move from there. And I also left there. I was there for about 2.5 months. And we were recording for maybe 6 weeks of that, 5 weeks of that. And then we brought the songs to a studio in Brooklyn and mixed it there down to the tape machine there. And then in June, I had a little bit of just rest, and then I met up with my bandmates because we quarantined together for a couple of weeks in Vermont, and then we went out to upstate New York to just make some music and create together with our friend Sam and at our friend Sam and Hannah's place, and that was in July or end of June or end of June, because we quarantined from mid-June to the end of June. So then July. And Amanda came after we finished that session, like right after everyone left. So I think August, or maybe it was September, like early September or something. I think I have that right.
High summer.
Yeah.
She painted a really amazing picture of your life at that time. And one thing that I thought was really cool is that you were renovating a truck or an RV or something in order to live in and move across the country. Can you tell me about your working on that and how you set it all up and everything?
Yeah. Well, I just happened to meet my friend Wyatt, who helped me with the whole thing while I was at Sam and Hannah's recording and making music with my band, with Big Thief. So we were all there for that month, and we were making music together. And then I met the neighbors, who are these farmers. And I said, I have this trailer and it needs a lot of work, and I want to live out of it and drive it across the country, but I need to work on it for a while. And they were like, well, you can park it here, and we have a wood shop and all the tools. And we actually became really good friends and worked on it every day. And Wyatt, like, he led the whole thing, and I was basically his like assistant. And we just like put it together and had a lot of meals outside by the fire, and it was really fun to have a project to work on like that. And then I took it across the country.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have a nice time when you were driving across the country? Did you stop anywhere cool?
I had to gun it pretty hard. Like I was like, I basically was, so I was driving this 1984 truck that I have. And I was pulling this trailer. So I was going like 30 miles an hour across the whole country.
That's slow going.
Between 30 and 50, seriously. And then I was doing like 14-hour driving days, but it took me 8 full days.
It's like you're on the train.
Yeah, exactly. So I like didn't really have a chance to really stop. My favorite part was right smack in the middle of my trip. I stopped at my friend Steve Fisher's place, and he and his partner Dina taught me. They're this badass like older couple. Steve is honestly one of the most legendary songwriters I've ever heard, but he's from Oklahoma, and he hasn't really spread his work, but he just has all these albums of these incredible songs. And they live in these awesome trailers, like right on the river in Oklahoma. And they each have their own, like, they live kind of next door to each other. And Steve played me a bunch of songs, and Dina taught me how to drive a motorcycle.
Cool.
And then Dina gave me this like earring with a motorcycle on it. And yeah, it was just so sweet. Like,
how did you do motorcycle driving? Did you do well?
I think I did pretty good.
Nice.
We just putted around the little park. Like,
nice.
Really, yeah.
That sounds fun. So you mentioned that Big Thief was recording new music. Do you have a new album on the way?
TBD. I mean, it's like we're always working on new stuff, but takes it takes a while before it takes form and shape, and that we actually know, like, we've been working on stuff and playing a lot of songs together, both old songs and new songs, and working on, yeah, we're definitely working on stuff, but it's hard to say what form it will take.
I will be patient. In the meantime, we have one last song that you recorded for us to get to, so let's get to that right now. This is Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at Home. This song is Forward, Beckon, Rebound from the new record Songs, live on KEXP at Home. It's Adrianne Lenker live on KEXP at Home. That was Forward, Beckon, Rebound from the new record Songs. What's that song about?
Good question. Oh, I mean, it's similar theme-wise to Zombie Girl in a way. It's like, it's just going through these cycles of like forwards and backwards and the non-linearness of growing, and how like you can feel like you've gone a few feet and then you've gone a few miles and then suddenly find yourself looping and twisting up back into your like psyche and like old things that you thought were healed over, you know, like just that humanness of like. And also at first it was forwards, back, and rebound, and I like when things can sound like more than one word, but also beckon, like beckoning something to you. But yeah, the whole thing starts with, honestly, I had my bandmate Max in mind. I was like, Max, I wrote this song for you because we just had this beautiful experience at the Dead Sea, and where it was the first time that we were all naked together because we got naked and got in the mud, and like,
yeah.
It was so beautiful. I just remember that like vulnerability of that and seeing the moon. And we were like the only people out there in this particular spot and feeling so close to friends and so vulnerable, but afraid of things and just, yeah, I guess just like seeing everything being dredged up from the bottom, like, the picture, like that visual of the virtual bedroom rising like a full moon, like all at once you're seeing like the beauty of nature and like the grace of everything around you, but you're also seeing like all the stuff that's just been like pushed into a pile, like that's super finite feeling and like decaying and like that right up next to the thing that feels so vast and infinite, like yeah, and really, I think it's summed up in the last verse though, pulling your face close, wanting the inmost, show me, I'm not afraid of you now. I think it's really speaking to my inner self. It's just like, okay, like that moment of jumping into the zombie, like, I'm not afraid of you. Like, I'm gonna actually push into you. And like, I was reading this Ursula Le Guin series, the Earthsea trilogy. It's like, in the first book, it's like the main character has to learn that, like, he's being chased by this thing that he's so afraid of, the thing that he's most afraid of. And it's only when like the hunted becomes the hunter, that like he starts chasing it. And there's just something about that of like, rather than like being in avoidance of all these shadowy, murky parts of myself, I could just become very acquainted with them and like look at them and like,
Yeah. The only way forward is through, as it were. Right? Yeah. I love that. Cool. Thank you so much for spending all of this time with us. I really appreciate it. One last question for you. What are your plans for the rest of the year? And do you have any hopes for the new year?
I'm going to go spend as much time as I can with my grandparents and my mom. I'm going to go in quarantine, get some COVID tests. And then, just hopefully I want to learn as much as I can about watercoloring because my grandma's so good at it. She did the cover actually, but I want to ask her to just, So my main plan is to just go hang with my grandparents and ask my watercolor with my grandma. And then hopes for the next year. I hope that as globally and just as a society and humanity, we can keep getting more and more conscious and aware, and myself. I hope that I can also continue to see more clearly and to look at things more bravely and to look at myself and learn how to listen more.
That's a good intention. Thank you. Thank you very much again for spending all this time with us. And I hope you have a wonderful new year. And I hope we can see you again in person very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thanks. And thank you all so much for tuning in. We cannot do any of these live streams without your support. So thank you so much for supporting KEXP. We have tons of these virtual events each and every week. You can look at our full events calendar at our website, kexp.org. And we will see you next time live on KEXP at home.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.